This is Roger Stone. The holidays are here, and it's the time of year when travel, crowds, and cold weather mean one thing. Everybody's getting sick. And in moments like this, you don't want to rely on the bureaucracy, the nonsense, or the slow-moving medical machine. You want control. You want to be prepared. You want options. That's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy, a company that actually puts you in charge of your health. You can go to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone, place your order online, and a licensed physician reviews it. Once approved, your medication ships directly to your doorstep. Fast, private, and secure. So whether you're looking for ivermectin, antibiotics, or everyday maintenance medications, All Family Pharmacy now has you covered. No waiting rooms, no runaround, no interference. This holiday season, don't gamble with your health or your family's health. Stay prepared, stay protected, stay in control. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/stone and now save 10% with code STONE10. Take charge of your health because nobody cares about your freedom more than you do.
The Freddy Fazbear box just dropped at Popeyes for $7.99, and it's scary good. Garlic palm tenders and cheesy bites with marinara sauce. Upgrade to the deluxe box for $12.99 and get a 20-ounce drink in a cupcake cup. Dig in
before it's too late.
Try the Freddy Fazbear Crunch menu, now at Popeyes. See Five Nights at Freddy's 2, only in theaters. Love that chicken from Popeyes. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Prices may vary.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Roger Stone Show. My wife and I, Nidia de Espinosa Bertrand, were married 33 years ago today. I mean, I don't speak Spanish. Let me get that exactly right. Nidia Bertrand de Espinosa, the proud Cuban daughter of Joaquin, her father, Joaquin Bertrand. And we were married in the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C. We had a full orchestra by my great friend Clive and Doc Scantlin, and a full 1930s style orchestra. It was a white tie affair. The guests included Congressman Jack Kemp, a very good friend, Governor Tom Kean of New Jersey, Anton Scalia, as well as porn star Nina Hartley. But by far the most famous guest there was Donald J. Trump, my friend of many years, and his then fiancée, the beautiful, talented health freedom fighter, Marla Maples. And it was a great wedding. It was written up in the tabloids because the Donald evidently got into an argument with Marla in the lobby of the Willard Hotel, and during that argument, she had thrown her engagement ring at him. So that dominated the news. It was a great wedding. Donald Trump danced with my bride, danced with my mother. He even graciously danced with my mother-in-law. Of course, he posed for pictures with anyone who asked. Could not have been more gracious and was having a good time. Saw that he had an extensive conversation with Governor Kean. And he and Marla, of course, had legs that went all the way down to the floor. She's a beautiful woman. She was a beautiful woman then. I know her well. Her more recent activism for health freedom is inspiring to all of us. And of course, Tiffany, her daughter, is graduated from the top of her law school class, is a brilliant and beautiful woman, beautiful Trump in herself, Trump woman. Great people. It was a terrific wedding, and I have to say that my wife, who is a very stout, proud, anti-communist Cuban American, has been my rock through these many years. Her father, Joaquin Bertrand, was the military attaché at the Cuban embassy. I think it was actually a consulate in Washington. He actually can be found in some of the recently declassified documents as among of those in the Batista government who had suspicions about Fidel Castro being a communist. He was, after the fall of Castro, the fall of Batista, and Castro coming to power, he got instructions to return to Havana for quote-unquote briefings. But like the good lieutenant colonel in the Cuban army that he was, he packed his bags and was prepared to fly home to Havana for these briefings. At about 11 o'clock that night, at my in-laws' home, there was a knock on the door from a CIA agent who on a very friendly basis, told my father-in-law not to return to Cuba because he was on a list of individuals to be eliminated, liquidated. So my father-in-law and his family, my wife's family, lost everything they owned because his real estate, his savings, his family, his property he owned, his nest egg was in Cuba. He also didn't speak English all that well, so he was fine in the job he had, but he then had to find work, leaving the Cuban government in resignation. He had to work as a fuller brushman, a house painter, a printer, and was very hard working all his life. But you can understand why my wife and her family have a fiery distaste for the brutal Cuban regime, where even today there are no civil liberties, no freedom of speech, no freedom of worship. It's also, because it's a communist country, not enough food, and they still oppress their people, as they do in Venezuela, and as the left would like to do in Honduras. However, that got upset this past week. So my wife was the person during my personal trials when they tried to frame me for Russian collusion that didn't exist, or lying about Russian collusion that didn't exist, which is not even theoretically possible. And where long after my conviction, the government was forced to release documents that show that Mueller's investigation had actually, literally, according to his own final report, found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime on my part. So having gone through that being weaponized and attacked with the full force of the federal government, when even their own documents show they admit you did nothing wrong, so they invent process crimes where you make misstatements that are not willful, but which are also completely immaterial, hide no underlying crime. Sorry, no Russian collusion, no WikiLeaks collaboration to find. When Robert Mueller and Andrew Weissman, who spent $30 million on this charade, are confronted, they continually say, oh no, Paul Manafort was handing over Trump campaign polling documents to a Russian intelligence asset. There's the Russian collusion. Several problems with that. The polls in question had not yet even been commissioned, and the campaign had not yet chosen a pollster. Pollster Tony Fabrizio, a New Yorker, the best in the business, recognized by everybody, had not gone into the field. I believe he was on the team, but had not yet fielded any polls. So any polling that Manafort may have given to anybody would have had to have been public, non-proprietary information. He most definitely sent information to a man named Konstantin Kilimnik, who both Mueller and Weissman insist is a Russian collusion asset. Yet the independent journalist Matt Taibbi and many others have proven that actually Konstantin Kilimnik was a a U.S. intelligence asset, so much so that his code name is blocked out and all telegraphs are classified today. He worked for Senator John McCain privately, and there's much documentation of his regular reports that he handed in at the embassy at Kyiv to be sent back to Washington. So he's not a Russian asset. This is one of the great frauds of their entire claim. In any event, it was in those times of that we went through this horrific experience as a family, which the stress of which cannot be imaginable. They gagged you so you can't defend yourself, or you can't make a living, because I make a living by writing and speaking. So you're unconstitutionally gagged. The judge says that if I'm allowed to defend myself, it could taint the jury pool, a ruling for which she can point to no law. If that's true, why then the judge, even after my conviction, kept the all-over gag, saying I couldn't speak on TV, radio, internet, nothing? Why would she keep him in place after I was convicted, but while I was awaiting sentencing? And why would she leave it on after I was sentenced? Unconstitutional. But when I went through this travail, it was my wife, Nydia Stone, in those dark moments where I talked about there being no way out, that said, you have to tough this out. And it is during that period that I did, through a very good friend of mine, Pastor Randy Coggins, hook up with Franklin Graham, and I did make a hard decision to redeem myself in the blood of the cross. And the people at Montgomery, Washington Monthly magazine scoffed. Roger Stone has found God, but I was born a Roman Catholic and I'll die a Roman Catholic. And I have wandered far from the church, but I am a believer that God is all powerful. And therefore, when I was not allowed to say much after the jury was out, I was still gagged. Can't explain why that would be constitutional. When I was asked what has sustained me, I must say it was my belief in God. The final day of the sentencing, I knew I was going to be found guilty, because this was a hanging, a lynching, in which every possible legal defense had been prohibited by the court, and the evidence had been manipulated. I brought a Bible to court, and I thought the liberals were going to go out of their mind. But I had been reading certain very comforting sections of the Bible, because I knew ultimately justice would be done. It was my wife who, in those moments of pain, those moments of doubt and pain, as Mick Jagger would say, it was my wife, Nydia, who said, no, you have to see this fight through. Turn yourself to the Lord. Turn this burden to the Lord. Franklin Graham told me that. Reverend Randy Coggins, my good friend, told me that. Dozens of Catholic priests and Protestant clerics and rabbis I know told me that, and that's why I'm with you today on the Roger Stone Show. But the special credit goes to her. She was my cheerleader. She was my helpmate. She was at my side at every point. She never flinched under all of the stress and pressure. I'm convinced, by the way, that the aggressive 4-stage cancer, which she has now conquered, was the byproduct of all that stress. Good cancer doctors, great oncologists will tell you that cancer is triggered by stress. So my celebration today is to my wife. She is not only my friend, she's the greatest woman I've ever known, a woman of infinite patience, and therefore Nydia D. Espinosa Beltran Stone, I love you. Thank you. We're right here in the Stone Zone for the Roger Stone Show. I got to get in the zone to be on the show, and we'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. I'm very excited about something. Congressman Jerry Nadler, who has been a hardcore left, virulently anti-Trump stooge for Nancy Pelosi, a man who and his wife who famously worked their way through hors d'oeuvre trade all over Manhattan, has decided to retire for in his congressional seat, which is largely Manhattan and one of the most blue Democrat districts in the country. Could be an interesting race only because John F. Kennedy's grandson, Jake Schlossberg, is considering running. There's some speculation that presidential daughter Chelsea Clinton, the actual daughter of Hillary Clinton and Webster Hubbell, is thinking of running. There's two major Democrat dynasties. There's some talk of former Governor Andrew Cuomo running. It is, after all, a heavily Democrat district. But Lucian Wintrich, who's an old friend of mine, a conservative, a libertarian, a very cool guy, a thinker, and an artist, and a boulevardier and a raconteur, and a very interesting guy, is thinking about running. People are urging him to run, not because he can win, but he could run in 1965 Bill Buckley for mayor-like campaign. Is really about the issues rather than the candidacy. And he's done a lot of deep thinking about the urban problems of New York City, and it's very interesting. He's working with others. He has an extraordinary platform of reform that I think his voters will listen to. Now, will he win? No. Could he run a great race because ideas matter? So I'm hoping that he'll run. He's an old friend of mine, very active with the New York Young Republicans. He knows many models, and he's quite active in the art scene. He's also one of the better dressed people when he gets dressed up. He could theoretically make my international best in dress list. He'd have to wear kind of an Andy Warhol knit black silk tie, but he could theoretically win. So I'm watching that race very, very carefully. Democrats, voters don't like dynasties. Jake Schlossberg is no genius based on the interviews I've seen. I don't know that Chelsea could be quite viable. Her parents could certainly raise her the money. And Andrew Cuomo, with a record as governor, a step down to be a congressman is an extraordinary step down. He would be a viable candidate if he chose to run. So I'm watching that extraordinarily closely because I think it will be an interesting race. When we come back, I want to talk about the decision by President Donald Trump to pardon Juan Orlando Hernandez, the alleged drug trafficker, and why this shows that his fighting drug trafficking in Venezuela is hypocritical. I want to take that head on when we return to The Roger Stone Show.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. So, a little over a week ago, President Donald Trump made a stunning announcement that rocked the foundation of both Honduran and American politics when he said he was going to issue a pardon for the country's former president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, politically known as JOH. True to his word, Hernandez, who was convicted of drug trafficking in the Southern District of New York in a political lynching and a flimsy and weak politically motivated case, was indeed pardoned. True to his word, Hernandez was released from custody on Tuesday, is now a free man after serving a little over 1 year of a 45-year sentence, a death sentence. Contrary to what many in the mainstream media, those guys over at Esquire and many others are saying, as well as many internet trolls, I was compensated nothing for my final act of advocacy on a pardon for the former Honduran president, simply because I forwarded a compelling letter that I got from a U.S.-based journalist from President Hernandez to President Trump. But I also read the trial transcript and I learned the facts of this case. First of all, it was Hernandez who signed the law that allows Honduras to extradite sex traffickers to the United States. He was commended by all of our law enforcement, DEA, and other agencies for his cooperation in the war on drugs. And his trial consisted of the testimony of 3 convicted drug dealers, traffickers, who had been prosecuted heavily by Hernandez's administration and who were incarcerated, being released from prison in return for their coached testimony by the Biden Justice Department. They have no evidence of transfer of funds and or any other extraordinary evidence. Anyone who reads this sees that it was a political hit job. It was a framing. It was, as we say in New York, a fugazi. And after I read that letter, I sent the very compelling letter of Hernandez, or JOH, to President Trump for his consideration for a full and unconditional pardon in the name of justice, in the name of mercy. This was a political and motivated lynching. It made way for the current pro-Castro, pro-Chinese communist, pro-Venezuela current government of Honduras, run by the narco-funded Libra party. I did make the observation that if the president chose to pardon Hernandez prior to the election, I believe that it would energize the supporters of Hernandez's National Party in the upcoming Sunday election. Now, this election was very interesting to me. The Libra Party, the party of the current chairman, Giomar Castro, who's an extreme leftist. You have a government which is not only identified with China, Cuba, and Venezuela, but which is, I believe, actively involved in the narco trafficking trade. Has become a pathway between Venezuela and other places, and that minority government, being quite unpopular because communism doesn't work and the economy is not very good, actually got a 3rd candidate into the race, so what's called a ringer. His job is to siphon votes from the National Party, and that's what I believe happened here. Tony, the Libra Party bosses very cleverly got the vice president, whose name is Nasrallah, to file in the race as a 3rd candidate. The most conservative party endorsed a gentleman named Tito Asfura. President Trump himself endorsed Asfura as having the most pro-U.S. policies, and a day later, Friday, he pardoned him. Now, it's interesting because I thought this was both politically wise, but more importantly, the correct thing to do, a matter of justice and mercy. The political consultant, Dick Morris, who I don't believe can get through to President Trump on the phone, did send him the message that he was now certain that Trump had blown the National Party's chances for victory, and that Roger Stone was working for the Hernandez party, family, or any other interest for that matter. That is categorically false. I received not a penny for my advocacy. Anyone who can look at my Substack will see I've been writing about the storm clouds that were forming in Honduras for it to become a full-fledged narco-Marxist state, go quite a ways back. So the important reason I say this is because, you see, the media keeps saying Trump's a hypocrite. He wants to take Maduro out of Venezuela because he's a drug trafficker. He's a major drug trafficker as well as a Marxist. But at the same time, he's pardoning Juan Orlando Hernandez, who's a convicted drug trafficker. It's because he was lynched by using the exact same lawfare tactics, the brutal tactics used against Donald Trump in every one of these New York cases, against the cases in Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and so on, the Jack Smith cases, including January 6th and the entirely phony documents case in which the perps are trying desperately to get back the classified documents that prove that they pulled off the Russian collusion hoax, so much so that they raid the home of a former president of the United States and they root through Melania's panty drawer. This sounds rather familiar to me, since they raided my home, and then for 13 hours after I was arrested and my wife was told to sit in the corner at gunpoint for 13 hours until one female agent said as long as she sat next to her, she didn't have to be armed. Unwilling to use her cell phone, they tore through every inch of my house. They found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or anything else for that matter. But they left the place a shambles. They also raided my studio from which I used to do podcasts and radio and so on, and they turned it upside down. It was like a bomb hit it. I'm still kind of sorting through Nixon posters and other political memorabilia as well as recapturing some very fine audio equipment. I was thinking about the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is the highest possible honor, civilian honor the president can bestow. I've already said publicly that I thought Pat Buchanan should get one, and he did. This was something I was very glad to see. Pat, you have a journey in politics. Pat had a journey, I had a journey. I started out as a more conventional conservative Republican before I began to understand the excesses of the neocons and their disregard for civil liberties. And I became more and more libertarian. And of course, in 2016, I couldn't stomach the nomination of Mitt Romney, who was, to my mind, conceivably the single worst candidate for president I'd ever seen, despite his square jaw and his near-perfect hair and his pedigree, which is mixed, because George Romney, who was governor of Michigan and later secretary at HUD, Richard Nixon once told me, not the sharpest tool in the shed. A good man, an honest man, but oblivious to a lot of things. But Ron Paul comes to mind as someone who should definitely get the Medal of Honor, who's been consistently right now for decades about war and peace issues, about monetary issues, a man who's always stood up for freedom, anti-interventionist. After I changed my registration briefly to the Libertarian Party to support the candidacy of Gary Johnson, who was a very fine and accomplished governor of New Mexico, who had an excellent job on reducing taxes, regulation, who supported substantial criminal justice reforms, an excellent governor, a huge job creator, and a real libertarian. I supported his candidacy. He created more jobs than any governor at the time combined who was thinking of running for president, as I recall. A very good guy. I supported his candidacy, helped get him in the ballot in 48 states, which is no mean feat. We at least had 30 base state already recognized conservative parties to count on who had done it before, but the rest has to be done ad hoc. I returned to the Republican Party to help Donald Trump hijack the party that it had become under the Bushes. You see, Reagan took the party away from the elites. They were shocked that this cowboy movie actor showed up from nowhere and beat their golden boy, George H.W. Bush, who had never actually won a race anywhere for state office. They were shocked when Reagan won control of the party. And conservatives have controlled the party over the establishment at the presidential level since that time. Donald Trump comes along out of nowhere, and he upsets the entire apple cart. He runs against 16 other more experienced politicians, and they say, this guy is a cartoon character. He's a caricature. He can't possibly win. And they don't understand that he's not only a master brander, but his ideas, his principles are pretty simple and easy to understand. Close our borders. How about that for an opener? Secondarily, get a better trade deal from our trading partners that we're getting by negotiating tougher but better tariff deals, bringing hundreds of billions of dollars to the bottom line. Last June was the first time in 15 years that in any 1 month period the government took in more money than the government spent. Many Americans do not yet appreciate this. So he is, without a question, I think, at the right time, at the right place. I'm thinking again, who else should he give a Medal of Honor to before he leaves? One that comes to mind is Senator Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley, I believe, was elected in 1978. He's the oldest serving member of the Senate at this time. He's a corn farmer, I believe. He's a man of great integrity. He's a man of great perseverance. He has been all over the fraud of the Russian collusion hoax and why those responsible should be held responsible. I think I consider him. Devin Nunes, the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, also one of those who figured out Russiagate early, wrote a report, every bit of which turned out to be right. A report attacked by Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, Jerry Nadler, and the rest of the House Democrat leftist cabal. So Grassley Nunes, I think, would be excellent. What I would like to see before the end of Trump's presidency, I would like to see him to give the Medal of Honor posthumously to President Richard M. Nixon. He recently received the Pioneer of Peace Award, Architect of Peace Award, from the Nixon Foundation. Very, very well deserved, in my opinion. Once again, celebrating my 33rd wedding anniversary to the light of my life, my life's partner, the toughest, most resilient, yet nicest woman a man could ever have. And I tell you how much I value her. It's been an extraordinary ride, to say the least. 50 years in the corroded rectum of the two-party system. As a Republican, as a libertarian, as American, as a writer, as a target, but as a survivor. I've seen it all. We'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. You know, because I grew up in the New York, Connecticut area, did my first state Senate race as the deputy campaign manager in 1966, working for a guy named Ed Long, who was a Madison Avenue advertising guy, one of the smartest guys I ever knew. Learned a lot about political messaging from him. He, wore the very thin white ties. He was a totally Mad Ave guy. Drank martinis, smoked these little cigars, solid black tie, kind of gray suit. Very madman-esque. Brilliant guy. He was the campaign manager. I was brought in as his deputy. We elected a man named John Lupton, who had served earlier in the state house in a Republican state Senate primary in a district that was New Canaan, Darien, Wilton, Westport. I think that comprises the district, one of the wealthiest districts and most conservative in the country. And the Republican Party organization had endorsed a local realtor named whose name escapes me. He wasn't all that important. The outgoing senator was Robert Bliss. I learned in that campaign how the difference between conservatives and moderate Republicans. I had worked in the 1966 campaign previously as a volunteer for Abner Seibel in the 4th District of Connecticut, but I noticed that the people in that campaign were more interested in cocktail parties than they were phoning and canvassing and going door to door, whereas in John Lupton's campaign, conservatives were understood shoe leather and working working the hardest part of Republican primaries. Anyway, I was in that primary. I was in Connecticut, and as a native of Connecticut, I love Connecticut-style pizza, which is to say New Haven-style pizza, which is, I need to point out, distinctly different than New York-style pizza or New Jersey-style pizza or Chicago or Detroit or any other place. New Jersey pizza. They're great pizza in every state. I'm sure I like watching Portnoy talk about this, but he is an Italian. I think there ought to be a real Italian involved. Portnoy, who I like a lot, came to Fort Lauderdale, and he went to a slice place and gave it a pretty decent review, when directly across the street was a small dive bar called Vinny's, whose pie was, Neapolitan pie was a greatly superior pie. But unfortunately, Dave Portnoy didn't know that. So, there's an explosion now of New Haven-style pizza, is my point. So all of these big Connecticut chains, or the originals, the standbys on Worcester Street, New Haven, where coal-fired New Haven pizza was born, was Frank Pepe's, Sally's, arch rivals, a place called The Spot. There were several others that would open later, but they were the largest. Many of them have now franchised, but the problem is that many of them have franchised in areas where the local ordinances, because they're written by liberals, don't allow you to heat the coal-fired oven to the temperature you need to cook the pizza quickly. That is the key to keeping it soft. If you have to cook it a long time, the bottom becomes cracker-like, and that's not New Haven style pizza. Anyway, it's taking root across South Florida with all of these new genuine coal-fired pizzas. Abit's is one that I like, but there are others opening. This is the future of pizza, particularly when you have Mayor Eric Adams trying to end the use of coal in any pizza oven in Manhattan, which he and his Board of Health and Administration are trying to do even as we speak. And pizza is life. Abit's, as we say in our part of Connecticut. Thank you for joining us on the Roger Stone Show. Coming up, a man I met a number of years ago, Danny Williams, who is, without any question whatsoever, the son of William Jefferson Clinton, banished by his nemesis, Hillary.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Back in 2015, after extraordinary research, I was convinced that Arkansas Governor William J. Clinton and Bobby Ann Williams had a son, and that son was still among us. And that son had, for some time, early in the Clinton governorship, been provided for financially. But when Hillary Clinton learned of this, and as Bill prepared to run for president, those payments stopped, cut off by Hillary. But I needed to know for myself whether this was a true story, so I flew to Arkansas and I met a young man named Danny Williams. And I came immediately to like Danny Williams, but also to recognize that he was telling me the truth. First of all, he looked and acted and had many of the same mannerisms and was just as smooth and outgoing as his father. And he also made it clear to me that what he was looking for was not money, It was the acknowledgement that he was William Jefferson Clinton's son. When this story began to bubble around, the Clintons thought they handled it because they had the Star tabloid, which was owned and represented by one of the Trump lawyers, Bill Kendall, run a story in which they got a sample of Danny's DNA, and they got a sample of Bill's DNA from the Star report with Monica Lewinsky, and they allegedly compared them and found that they were not a match. The AP picked up that story, pushed by how he cursed the Washington Post, but it's incorrect. There were not two blood test results included in the Star report, even though two were referenced in the text, and it takes two to issue paternity. Therefore, the test that they described could not prove that Danny was or was not Bill's son. It could prove nothing at all. Danny is Bill's son. An amazing documentary was made on this by the documentary maker Joel Gilbert, which was called Banished, the Danny Williams story, in which Danny told his heartfelt story. He is a father. He's a very good father. He's a hard-working American. He is a believer in God. He's an honest guy who sought to tell the truth. It's ironic when he went public just before the 2016 presidential campaign. The one reporter who tried to debunk this was Olivia Nuzzi, who's now in exile after her online affair with Robert Kennedy was revealed. At a press conference Danny had with a number of ministers, simply asking for the truth from Bill Clinton, take a blood test and let's settle this, not looking for money, just looking for acknowledgement that Bill was his father, which I'd want to know if the president was my father. She was the only one who gave us a hard time. Anyway, I've talked enough about this. Danny has written an incredible book about his entire experience, The Forgotten Son. It is just now available. You can get it on Amazon. I cover this also extraordinarily, because there's a lot more to the story, at the Clintons' War on Women, also available online, or at stonezone.com or Amazon, wherever. We cover the background here, but Danny is exactly who he says he is, and the way he has been treated has been manifestly unfair. Danny Williams, good to hear you, my friend.
Nice to hear you, too. How you doing?
Excellent. Danny is a great companion. He used to visit me in Miami. First of all, you should see how this boy can eat. I mean, he can eat. But how have you been, my friend?
I've been good, taking care of my family. Just, staying above the ground.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the fact that I know how hard it is to write a book. And Danny Lee Williams, who is without any question the son of William Clinton and Bobby Ann Williams, has written this terrific book. I report in my own book that I met your mother, I met your Aunt Lucille. Mm-hmm. I interviewed numerous state police officers who told me, oh, yes, I delivered an envelope with several $100s to this given house, and I brought Chelsea's excess Christmas presents to the house. One agent told me, "See those presents over there?" And the state trooper said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You take them over this address. Don't let Hillary know." And they basically were taking excess presents from Chelsea and sending them over to Danny. So I don't criticize Bill. I criticize Bill Clinton for not doing the right thing, acknowledging Danny, but it's really Hillary who sends him into the abyss.
Correct.
So tell us about your book.
So, yeah, it's a tremendous book. I mean, I got it on Amazon, The Forgotten Son. You can find it on Amazon. Please go get that book. It got a lot about my life, how I was come up, how I was brought up. And I just, hope it motivates somebody and hope they get the book. And
nobody deserves a success more than you do. I mean, this is an extraordinary story for those who don't remember it. the attempts to bamboozle my friend Danny are outrageous. Even after Hillary lost the election, there was a lawsuit filed, and ultimately the Clinton camp agreed to comparing DNA samples with Danny under a fair arrangement. It was alleged, but unfortunately, Bill not only didn't show up to take a sample, he never gave one, but they did grab a sample from Danny, which solved nothing. This was the work of an evil family court attorney in Arkansas, which I think was quite unfair to Danny. But the Clinton's family still goes to enormous lengths to acknowledge the simple fact that you are Bill's son. And I remember the epic scene where Hillary saw you I saw the video of it at a Texas rally when you drove hours to sit in the front seat, just seeking the answers as to why they wouldn't acknowledge you.
Right.
And not trying to get into politics, but this is what you told me you wanted from the beginning. Once she saw you, she dropped her note cards on the floor, and she was extraordinarily frazzled. It was then that I knew absolutely that Danny was Bill's son. And then when Bill asked his half-sister, I guess, well, not really so, because I don't believe that Chelsea Clinton is Bill Clinton's daughter. That's Webster Hubbell's daughter. That's also in my book. They hate that too, but there's too much evidence. Well, when he asked for the sample from the blue dress so that we could get this test and resolve this, many in the media covered the story, which I was glad to see, because I think you need an opportunity to tell the truth about who you are. You are a hardworking, fine gentleman of his word. You went through a lot of hell by going fire and going public, and simply told the truth. It's amazing how much of your story has been suppressed by the mainstream media. But you had the entire, I believe, the local minister, Say McIntosh, he figured the truth out, and then I think he blackmailed Clinton to stop talking about it. That's how well known it was in the community. And then my favorite part was your Aunt Lucille, who's a woman of great courage, who takes you to the governor's mansion. Waits until the big gates swing open to accommodate some state car, slips in to the mansion, brings the infant Danny up to the front door, rings the doorbell, and when the very surprised state trooper answers, he says, "Who are you?" She says, "I want to see Hillary Clinton, and I want to see her now." And they say, "Well, who are you?" And she says, I'm Lucille Bolton, and I want to see her now."
Correct. And I talked about it in my book. So,
another you get the details in Danny's book. Of course, Hillary.
Yeah, correct.
Hillary refused to meet, but the message that was left was very clear. It was kind of, look here, this is your husband's son, and you need to do the right thing by him. And then they ran you off. So your Aunt Lucille was a great woman of great courage. She was a church-believing lady. And I really enjoyed her very much. She's a great lady. And your mom has had struggles. I mean, at one point, in an attempt to silence her, they threw her out of a second or was a third-story window.
Second floor.
And that you have come back from all of this. Once again, the book is The Forgotten Son. You can get it on Amazon. Danny talks about his early upbringing in Little Rock, the horrific experience of poverty, the instability, the limited support in his life from, even though he had an extraordinarily famous father. His father's worth, it is estimated now somewhere around $650 million. However, Chelsea seems to be well taken care of, but Danny doesn't seek money, but I seek it on his behalf. And his role as a father and a family man. It's not easy to have a giant splash in the media and have everybody know who you are, but I realized that this was going to move the American voters when a week before the election, Danny came to meet me in the upper side of New York. We had dinner late at night and we went to Carmine's. and the folks in Carmine's were overwhelmingly people of color. Danny came in wearing a hoodie, but when he took the hoodie down, people were lined up wanting to have their picture taken to him. I said, "Look at that! That's Bill Clinton's boy. That's Bill Clinton's boy." It was a matter of pride to me and to you to find so many people were sympathetic to your story. So,
yes, sir.
The Forgotten Man. Grab your copy of it now. Danny Williams is a young man from which you will hear a great deal more. Great father, a great American who's been put through hell, but is here to tell about it because of his belief in the Lord.
Right, yeah. Check out my social media. I got it on all my platforms. It's a link. It'll take you straight to the book, The Forgotten Son.
All right. Read it. Read that for us. What does it say? The link. Oh,
yeah. The link is Amazon. It's just Amazon link.
All right, great.
I got it on my social media. They click on it and it'll take them straight to the book.
How do people see you on social media?
Oh, they love it. I mean, I've been.
But what is your handle?
What is my handle?
Yes.
Basically, it just, I've been doing great numbers right now on my book, but I need more. I need more people to hear my story.
What address can people find you at in social media?
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram. They look up my name, Danny Williams Clinton. I pop up.
All right. Be very clear, folks. It's D-A-N-N-E-Y. D-A-N-N-E-Y. Danny Williams.
Clinton.
Clinton. Find him on social media. He's a great fellow, and he's got a great book. And he's been through a lot, but he has stood tall to tell the truth. God bless you, Danny. Keep in touch.
Thank you, too.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik showing what she's made out of, fighting the leadership of her own party over a bill she's put forward that would require the intelligence agencies to notify elected officials or others when they are the subject of a counterintelligence investigation. This is meant to make sure that nothing outrageous as the Russian collusion hoax, which is the abuse of power for political reasons by people who are acting politically within our government, never happens again. Elise Stefanik is a very tough lady. She's had the courage to take on judicial corruption in the cases of Donald Trump and file complaints when nobody else would. She has fought repeatedly to get the strategic defense of the United States, which we've paid for. It's already been paid for. Built on the East Coast and built at the best place, Fort Drum. She's been a loyal supporter of the president, a woman of great integrity and capability. And Democrats may not be scared, they may scoff, but they would be making a gigantic mistake. Kathy Hochul is the most unpopular governor in Florida history. If a Hispanic Democrat that probably doesn't exist issued her, challenged her and had money, she's beatable. I'm not sure the current lieutenant governor can beat her, but she's eminently beatable. When I looked at upstate polls last week in a House race, she had the highest, most unfavorable rating I've ever seen by a politician of either country. So I do want to I want to look at that race very carefully. The numbers are encouraging. At this point, to close the show, however, I want to dedicate a song to my very good friend, Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee. He is an extraordinary American, and Tim, this is for you.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, which is outside Washington, D.C., one of the most liberal districts in the country, Eric Siebert, had been quietly preparing a 51-page memo arguing why former FBI Director James Comey should not be charged with lying to Congress under oath, which he clearly did. He also failed to disclose his material conflict of interest in the case. You see, Mr. Siebert's father-in-law, his wife's father, is the godfather to James Comey's daughter. The gentleman in question also represented Comey, a material conflict of interest, not just the appearance of one, that should have caused him to recuse himself. He was fired by President Donald Trump. Trump appointed an interim U.S. attorney, Lindsay Halligan, who is extraordinarily attractive, but also an extraordinary attorney. They demeaned her as a beauty queen because of her looks, and they kept calling her an insurance lawyer, when in fact she was a senior partner for civil litigation of a major Florida law firm, and she oversaw an enormous amount of civil litigation regarding mortgages, housing, and so on. She managed to go to as the prosecutor, go to a grand jury, win an indictment of Letitia Brown on all counts. And yes, everybody in the jury saw all counts. And then that case was not surprisingly dismissed, not on the basis of the merits of the case, but on the basis of her status. A ruling by 3 federal judges that is deeply, deeply flawed, in which they violate the canon of ethics, they leak. It becomes very clear that they don't want to deal with the issues of what Comey did. So Abby Lowell, whose filings in the case are almost laughable in their absurdity, I can't believe the guy charges for this, has led the charge. Now, because the judge dismissed essentially Lindsay Halligan, a new prosecutor named Keller was appointed, among others, to prosecute the case, and they have failed to get an indictment from a grand jury. Now, this is a documents case, and therefore that's almost impossible to believe. But there is no better person to talk about this than investigative journalist and a gentleman who has gotten my respect because he brings the receipts, Sam Antar. His website, whitecollarfraud.com, is where he posts all the receipts. So there's no conjectures, there's no supposition, just hard, cold analysis. And he's approved this case. He was surprised when the second jury did, but it seems to have been done quickly. I was not surprised. I think this case is becoming politicized. Sam, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
And thank you for having me on, Roger. I would just say this. Lindsay Halligan, an inexperienced MAGA beauty queen, what they like to call her, was able to get an indictment, whereas a 30-year veteran of the DOJ, Roger Keller, wasn't able to get an indictment.
Career professional prosecutor.
Professional prosecutor.
Chosen, I am told, by the Department of Justice at the senior level. An associate of John Sauer, comes out of Missouri, could be a fine fellow, I don't know, but lawyers follow the instructions of their clients. I don't think... the problem, of course, here is that, and I'm not sure people realize this, but Letitia James, it's not just mortgage. She has led a life of crime. Her public filings are a disaster. Let's say, appear to be written by a monkey. Things disappear, things come back, things she didn't report, mortgages that are no longer in existence are reported, while mortgages that are current are not even in the reports. It's hard to believe. There's a lot of evidence that she's used campaign money for personal use. That's a crime. There's a huge question about her fundraising and how much of it's real. She took in millions from Act Blue. That's a payment processing company. When a group in upstate New York started canvassing her donors for public information, she stepped in as Attorney General and issued a cease and desist order, essentially a Nixon-style cover-up of her own duplicity. What is your opinion, Sam, of this dismissal?
Well, let's talk about the big elephant in the room that nobody wants to discuss. Is Todd Blanche, the number 2 at the DOJ. okay? He removed Lindsay Halligan from the case, and he put on Roger Keller, the career prosecutor who couldn't obtain an indictment.
Well, it was my understanding that Blanche didn't remove her. The court removed her.
The court removed her, but she could have still been involved in arguing with the grand jury, etc. She wasn't. Keller was the one that was installed as a result, and Blanche was behind it. Now,
I don't know this to be true, but go ahead.
Okay, Blanche, I'm a pattern guy. I look at for patterns, I analyze. I don't read, I analyze, okay? There have been 52 or 54 leaks coming from the Justice Department on this case. All of the leaks are not favorable to the prosecution. Of those 54 leaks, 6 of them are very, very favorable to Todd Blanche. And as an old school crook, I can tell you, when you don't want to say something, have the press say it for you. All of them talk about Blanche not liking the case. All of them talk about Blanche wanting to, not all of them, but one in particular talks about Blanche wanting to investigate Bill Pulte, the FHFA chairman, because it's a crime to read my blog, to look at the documented findings in my blog, and use that blog to create a criminal investigation. It's USC Code 1000.
The president's spokesman, Steve Young, of course, put out a statement yesterday from the president praising and re-expressing his confidence in Pulte. Pulte has been under attack for the simple reason that he is taking it to the Democrats when it comes to justice and accountability. It's not retribution and revenge. It is prosecuting people when they have committed crimes. Washington is this is a contact sport in Washington, and Bill has been in the middle of it. I believe his actions to be entirely legal. I believe all the records that he referred to the Department of Justice for assessment were matters of public record that anyone with a laptop and half a brain could get. So the allegation that you hear from people like Elizabeth Warren that he accessed proprietary government data and shared it publicly is entirely false. Steve Chung, the White House spokesman, said in a statement, Bill Pulte is one of the president's most loyal and important advisors who is doing a great job. He is also deeply involved in working with the president, who's trying to decide what to do with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Scott Bessent, another one of the president's most brilliant appointees, in my view, in on those discussions with the president. The president has to decide whether to take it public, what portion the government should continue to control. I have these are financial issues of mine, but Bill works closely with the Treasury Secretary and the president on that. The president will ultimately decide, but many on Wall Street, many in the business community looking extraordinarily carefully about that. The conduct of the judges in this matter they're really extraordinary. Judge Michael Nachmanoff, a Biden appointee, engages in bias, media reliance, contrary to legal rules under Canon 2, constant hostility to the prosecution. I read the transcript. He accused Ms. Halligan of being a puppet, ceding her no express. That's not neutral judicial questioning. That's insinuation. He admits in his own marks he relies on newspaper accounts instead of the evidence that's been entered into the court in front of him. He continues to comment on things he read in the press. By law, of course, judges can't rely on external reporting. Canon 3 forbids it. But this reporting shaped the judge's skepticism. Then the one-sided interruptions. He stopped the prosecution some 67 times. He did not interrupt Ivy Lowell and Letitia James not one time. The federal government misstated the record. The judge misstated the record. The judge then had to cover his derriere by filing a notice of correction because he realized his error. He prejudged his prosecutorial independence from the beginning. It was really an extraordinary experience that I think merits the judge from sitting in this case. There should be a complaint to the Office of Professional Responsibilities, I believe, where you file a formal crime about a judge. Then with Judge Cameron McGowan Curry, she parachuted into this case out of nowhere. She doesn't even sit in Virginia. She sits in South Carolina. We assume the Department of Justice moved her because it would require that. She was personal and demeaning in her conduct to the prosecutor. She belittled her repeatedly from the bench. She also continued to quote newspaper reporting as her sources. It's really almost beyond belief. She had no connection to the venue. Her rulings and her comments will curl the ears of any reasonable lawyer. But last and not worst was a guy named William Fitzpatrick. I don't even know if you knew this, but Sam, he was also complicit in the dismissal of Lindsay Halligan. The point, I guess, is these cases, Letitia James' case was dismissed on a technicality that never looked at the evidence. Please walk us through why this crime is real and why the grand jury should see it rather clearly. It's a documents case.
It's strictly a documents case. It doesn't require my testimony. It doesn't require anyone's testimony, okay? Mortgage documents, make this clear. Mortgage documents, by their very nature, okay, are recorded and publicly accessible, okay? Bill Pulte, as the chairman of the FHFA, has a statutory right to gain access to those documents, even though they're alleging that he had no right to have access to it. But let's put that aside, because I was the main catalyst for the investigation. It came from my blog, it came from public information, and that's what Pulte relied upon to write his referral letter.
Sam's right. Sam did break this story at whitecollarfraud.com. If you don't follow him there and you love politics, and he doesn't write alone. He's done extraordinary work on the underpinnings and financing of the Mamdani campaign that proved indisputably that it was not a grassroots effort. It was funded by an interlocking group of NGOs, nonprofits, political parties, other entities in violation of the law. That's another story for another day. This case is pretty obvious to me. Of course, judges look for patterns. Letitia James has a 43-year record of mortgage fraud. I believe it's fair to say that literally every mortgage document she signed has had falsehoods in it, knowable falsehoods, and she's profited from the system. There's no question, she said in a sworn statement, that she would live in this home in Virginia, which got her into this district for court, and it would be her principal residence. That was not a check the box. That was a sworn form. That would make her if this was her principal legal residence, she would be a resident of the state of Virginia and ineligible to be the governor of New York under New York state law. Now, she's going to raise a lot of money on this acquittal. I personally think she's not hardly out of the woods. You could yet see, in my opinion, a tax evasion case against her. You could also see a bribery case. You're listening to Roger Stone, talking to Sam Antar, and we'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. I just confessed to you I'm a completely political animal. I eat, breathe, and sleep politics. If you cut me, I think I bleed politics. My coming of passage was after I read Barry Goldwater's book, A Conscience of Conservative, 1964. From that time, I knew this is where I wanted to be in the fight. I learned that Barry while he stood for all the things I did, had gone out of his way to win the 64 election. He was a cranky kind of guy. He'd been drafted anyway, really didn't want to run, and he went to the Tennessee and advocated selling the TVA. He mused about using nuclear weapons to defoliate the jungles in Vietnam, scaring the hell out of everyone. He went to Florida and said Social Security should be made voluntary. He imploded. I determined by my study that Richard Nixon had been cheated out of the presidency in 1960, and I wrote him a letter in exile where he was practicing law in New York City, telling him if he ran again, I wanted in. And at a very tender age, his people got in touch, and I worked in his 1968 campaign. But long before that, after my infatuation with Goldwater, because I had it immediately in my blood, I became involved in the campaign for mayor of the place I was growing up, living essentially with my grandparents for the summer, in the campaign of Louis J. Padula, the former House Majority Leader of the Connecticut House, who was seeking the mayor's office in the city of Norwalk, which I think is the third or fourth largest city, I believe, in Connecticut. Norwalk was in 1965, in a very strange way, it had the exact same demographic breakdown as the country at large. So despite the changes and how it's constituted today, it had the same number of Protestants and Catholics, the same number of black, whites, and Hispanic, roughly the same party registration figures, the age. It was almost a near perfect microcosm if you polled the United States. I was then fortunate to, I got sucked into local politics, where I learned a great deal. The previous mayor, John Shostak, tried to make a comeback. He was one of the most handsome guys I ever met. He photographed terrifically, was a great candidate. He did not get elected, but the city of Norwalk is one of the few cities in the country who's had a socialist mayor, Irving Fries, who ran first as last time as independent, but got elected as a socialist to 2 terms in the city of Norwalk. Was a very popular mayor. He was defeated by Republican Frank Jerry Cook. And then came along a very young, dynamic Democrat named Frank Zulo, who never lived up to his potential. They said he'd be governor or congressman. He ended up as neither. So this is the milieu in which I learned politics, and it was very clear if you could win a race for mayor, which we would ultimately do, Tom O'Connor and others, by putting together the same coalition, you need to win nationally. When young people come to me and say, I want to get into politics, where do I start? Well, you don't start at the White House, kid, nor do you start in a presidential campaign, nor do you start most likely in a Senate race or a House race. As my good friend General Flynn says, get involved at the ground root. County commission races, state senate races, state legislative races, congressional races. Volunteer, if you're looking for a job, it may come, but you begin by volunteering and learning. The political process needs that. Computers and the ability to mass communicate without having to lick envelopes has really changed the dynamic of politics, but there's nothing more effective than word of mouth. All the polls show that voters rely most on things they're told by people they know and trust, rather than television or radio or mail or anything else. Sam Antar, you want to wrap this up?
Yes, very, very easy. I'm going to talk about one.
I'm sorry, I've left only about a minute, so I apologize for that.
Okay, one property, 4 contradictory statements. Why Halligan was able to get an indictment when veteran Roger, whatever his name was not able to get an indictment. She tells the bank her property is going to be used as a second home for personal use. She signs an affidavit of occupancy saying she's going to occupy it 3-4 months of the year.
Right.
She tells the insurance company...
Sam, I cut you short here, so come back tomorrow night.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Sam Antar, we'll pick up the other side. God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear The Roger Stone Show Sunday afternoons at 3. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
This is Roger Stone. The holidays are here, and it's the time of year when travel, crowds, and cold weather mean one thing. Everybody's getting sick. And in moments like this, you don't want to rely on the bureaucracy, the nonsense, or the slow-moving medical machine. You want control. You want to be prepared. You want options. That's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy, a company that actually puts you in charge of your health. You can go to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone, place your order online, and a licensed physician reviews it. Once approved, your medication ships directly to your doorstep. Fast, private, and secure. So whether you're looking for ivermectin, antibiotics, or everyday maintenance medications, All Family Pharmacy now has you covered. No waiting rooms, no runaround, no interference. This holiday season, don't gamble with your health or your family's health. Stay prepared, stay protected, stay in control. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/stone and now save 10% with code STONE10. Take charge of your health because nobody cares about your freedom more than you do.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.